Hey there, lovely. If you're a driven and highly ambitious woman who has checked all the boxes, followed all the rules, only to realize you don't actually feel fulfilled or you don't feel like you're living your purpose, then you are absolutely in the right place. My name is Melissa Chavis. I'm an intuitive mindset coach, and I am absolutely obsessed with helping you discover your true purpose, that thing you were put here on this earth to do, so that you can live the most fulfilling and abundant life possible. Welcome back to another episode of the Authentic Awakening podcast. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join me here for this conversation. I want to talk about something that I haven't really gone too in depth on in this show, in this podcast before, but it's something that I feel like I reference in a lot of what I talk about on a very consistent basis. And it is really a huge focus in my mentorship program. So I just wanted to kind of dive in on this topic today and give a little bit more context and a little bit more description around some issues, concerns I see related to this topic. So today I want to talk about the inherently flawed way that we tend to view success in our society. I talk a lot about women redefining what success means for them so that they can live a life that actually feels fulfilling and makes them feel alive. But why is the redefining piece so important in the process of creating a more authentic and aligned and exciting life? It's because most of us start out with a pretty messed up definition of what success means. For me, I used to think that it was mostly related to money and superficial things that I needed to attain in my life. It was really about status and appearances. I really felt like I wasn't being successful unless I had a certain amount of income or a big enough house or the right kind of car. I really felt like I needed my life to appear perfect from the outside looking in. And the thing is, I didn't even realize how much that definition of success was shaping my decisions, my energy, my self-worth until it all started to feel just too heavy. And I didn't know why, but I knew that something just needed to change in my life. And that's why I want to break this down today and discuss what I see as the three biggest problems with defining success the way that most of us were taught to define it. Because when we understand what's not working, we can finally create something new, something that actually feels good for us. So the first problem with the way that most of us define success is that it ties our worth to achievement. So what do I mean by this? Most of us are raised to believe that the more we accomplish, the more valuable we are. So more credentials, more money, more milestones, more proof that we are doing things the right way. But then what happens when we don't achieve that next big goal or that next big milestone that we were after? Because we're human and sometimes we just need a minute. We end up feeling like we're behind in some way. We feel like we are failing, even if in that moment we're doing exactly what we needed to do for us and our health and our well-being. We still have the sense that we are failing in some way. So this version of success teaches us that the doing, the achieving of it all is more important than who we're being and how we're feeling. That can show up as beliefs like rest is lazy, or that slowing down and taking some time for ourselves is showing weakness. And ultimately, it ends up feeling like our worth and value as a human is something that we constantly have to earn, something that we have to strive for and achieve. But the truth is, no external achievement can give you what only true inner alignment can create for you. So the second problem is that defining success in the way that we typically do, it ends up making success a constantly moving target. So you hit the milestone and yet it's just not enough. Or you make the amount of money you thought would make you feel successful, and that goalpost just keeps moving further and further out. Or you buy the house, you get the promotion, you hit that big goal that you've been striving for, and then suddenly there's a new standard. There's a new goal to hit, a new promotion that you're after. And it turns out you never actually arrive at success. Because when the goal is all about achievement, it's the achieving that becomes your focus. And your brain gets wired to constantly be in this achieving mode. And it truly never feels like enough. Because this version of success isn't about fulfillment or about the way you feel or the state of your nervous system. It is all about chasing the next big thing. And if you're always chasing a constantly moving target, you are never fully just living the life that is right here in front of you. And this is exactly how burnout happens. This is how we end up feeling completely disconnected from our own intuition. And this is how we end up living a life that looks perfect from the outside, but feels completely empty on the inside. And problem number 3 is that defining success in this way completely disconnects us from what we actually want in life. So here's the thing. When we follow someone else's definition of success for long enough, we forget to ask ourselves the most important question of all, and that is, what do I actually desire in this life? We override our intuition. We make decisions from this place of should instead of truth. It's like, well, this is what I should be doing, or this is what someone else in my situation would be doing. That's the way that we make decisions, and that's the way that we move through our life. But it just results in us keeping ourselves small and quiet and agreeable because deep down, we're afraid that if we step outside the lines, we will lose the love and the acceptance and the validation that all of that achievement seems to have brought us so far in our lives. But here's the thing. You were never meant to live life in a way that fits inside this perfect, neat little mold. You were meant to create a life that feels like freedom, that actually feels good, that makes you feel alive inside. And all of that begins with redefining success on your own terms. It starts with truly figuring out what success feels like for you. What is it that you actually desire in this life? What does that version of success feel like in your body? That is where we start, because you can't create a reality for yourself where you actually feel fulfilled and alive in your day-to-day life unless you first disconnect yourself from this current achievement focused definition of success that you've likely been living by for your entire life up to this point. So if you're listening to this and you're realizing that this version of success that you've been chasing doesn't actually feel like you anymore, I just want to say you're absolutely not alone. So many of us have gotten to this point in our lives as high achieving women who have gotten to a certain level of success and then realized that it just wasn't all that we thought it was going to be, that it still feels like there's something missing. And that is exactly what I do with clients inside of my mentorship every single day. Because real fulfillment doesn't come from performing this life that looks good from the outside looking in. It actually comes from embodying a life that feels true to you and who you really, really are at your core. So if that is a shift that you've been craving, I actually created a free resource just for you. It's called the Embodied Success Blueprint. And inside, I guide you through this process of redefining success in a way that's aligned with your energy and your truth and ultimately your next level in life. So you can grab that guide by clicking the link here in the show notes, or you can DM me over on Instagram. That's at Melissa Ann Chavis, and I will send it your way. So again, thank you so much for being here for this conversation today. And I really, really encourage you to be very honest with yourself when it comes to this topic, because I think a lot of times we end up fooling ourselves into thinking that everything is just fine when deep down we know that it's not. So thank you for being here. And I hope that this information was valuable for you. And until next time, I hope you have an amazing week. That's it for another episode of the Authentic Awakening podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you found it helpful, I'd love to hear from you. You can do that by liking and subscribing to my YouTube channel or rating and reviewing the podcast wherever you're listening.